Hello travelers, Boardman21 here, and today's build is the Warcry Beserker Beastmaster, and it's a little bit better than it was last patch. It's definitely a little bit more defensive, which is fun. It has some better attack speed right off the line, and it has a lot more damage. And now that we have the new tooltip DPSs, we can kind of go off of that as a calculation of damage. We were able to hit almost 1 million damage per second with swipe, where we had enough aspect of the shark stacked and aspect of the links, which just allowed for a massive amount of damage. You kill the bosses in seconds, you have a huge amount of leech, and then you also with Warcry can get haste. You can get haste on hit, you get haste when your wolf howls, you can speed run through maps really fast because you almost always have haste on. And then with that, there are a lot of defensive changes. The gear has been swapped around. You can get plus added levels to skills. All sorts of things have changed. There's new blessings, new bosses, and although we've dug into some of it, this build is nowhere near min-maxed. You know, we only have tier 10 to tier 14 gear. We don't have all of the new blessings. We don't know all of the new uniques, and we definitely don't have high levels of the new affixes. We haven't synergized all the affixes with each other. Some of the blessings made us a little overcapped on things such as like the endurance percentage. So things like that we'll relook at later. But right now this build is definitely viable. It's really fun to play and it's super fast paced, especially with that attack speed and movement. Alright, let's go ahead and dig into the skills. For skills, I'm running Swipe with +2 levels, Frenzy, Earthquake, Summon Wolf, and Warcry. Now, for Swipe, we have 2 additional levels to this. Swipe only comes on the relic, so if you're trying to get those plus skill levels, gamble for relics. That's going to be the only way you get it. It won't come on chest and it won't come on helm. You get other skills on that. It seems they have it set up to where only certain skills will come on certain items, and that's why you can't stack multiple additional levels through different items to get absolutely ridiculous. I believe you can get up to +4 if you were to get like tier 7 exalted items. So if you did that, you did on 3 items, you could get +12. So they kind of separated that out so that +4 was the max you were going to get on a specific skill through your specific class of fixes. But for this skill, having those 2 additional points is really helpful. We have 4 points in aspect of the Panther, so we get that global damage off stacks. 3 points in Wild Calling, so that we have a 45% chance on hit to get Spirit Wolves, which dash forward and kind of do a nice AoE cone shape in front of you. They do the same amount of damage that Swipe does, so it's basically a second hit, which is really nice. 1 point in Feline Hunter for more attack speed. 4 points in Ambush for 100% increased critical strike chance. 4 points in Apex Predator for that 100% critical multiplier. 2 points in Way of the Hunt for some more hit damage and 4% more leech. And then we have 4 points in Wagarian Reach for that 20% more damage and 100% more area. Now, in the future, as I play with this, and especially if we are somehow able to find an exalted item with it to get +3 or +4 to it, or some sort of unique, depending on if we have something like that in the game right now, we are definitely going to change the points around and definitely take advantage of the 60% more hit damage against slowed along with the threshold. What that's going to do is really boost your damage, getting 60% more damage than what we have here. However, in order to do that, we'll probably have to take 1 point out of critical strike chance, might have to take 1 point out of the global damage, maybe 1 point out of the area, but just having that and +2 points would be able to cap that out, which will be huge. So that's something we're going to be aiming to do before 8.2 arrives. For Summon Frenzy Totem, we have 2 points in Rapidity, 2 points in Beast-Style Frenzy, and 5 points in Lead the Pack. The reason for this is we're going to have our Wolf, who is spec'd into, but we don't expect any great things from. We just want to be able to use its Howl ability all the time to get that 250% increased critical strike chance. We have 5 points in Grounded for that 25 global melee physical damage, 1 point in Dig In, so that you have more damage while tethered. 4 points in Dig Deep means while you're tethered, you'll have a 200% increased critical strike chance. And 1 point in Teutonic Reach for that tether range, so it's easier to stay connected. For Earthquake, now you can put any skill that you want here. I put Earthquake just to see what kind of damage we could get out of it. I used it before. However, since we don't have swiped spec to give mana back, this is not something you're going to be able to spam. It's super mana expensive. If you don't use it, your mana will always stay full because your other skills aren't going to use too much. You'll regen faster. So this is something you could spam to, say, finish off a boss when you stacked up a lot of aspect of the shark and your melee damage is really high. And the tooltip on this got well over 1,000,000 damage, so you can definitely get some really good damage out of it. However, like I said, it's going to take all of your mana in one use, and then it's going to take quite a while to rebuild all that mana up. How we have it spec'd here is 5 points in Rupture, 4 points in Sunder, 5 points in the harder they fall, 3 points in Potency, 1 point in Seismic Smash, 1 point in Seismic Tide, and 1 point in Concussion. Now, there are other skills that you could use. You could use Edera's Blessing and cast it on yourself so that you get, increased healing, but you can also get elemental and poison resistance capped that way. You'll just have to cast it once every 4 seconds. However, I didn't really want to do that. Even though they did fix it to where you're not casting it as long, they reduced the total cast animation so that you can start moving faster. It is something we'll look into, but right now I was just going for DPS as that's what this build is about. For Summon Wolf, we have 5 points in On the Hunt, 3 points in Call of the Wild, so when he howls, you'll get haste for 3 seconds, 2 points in Battle Cry for 50% increased duration. What's nice about this is that means that 3 seconds is now 4.5 seconds of haste whenever your wolf howls, so this is why you get haste a lot and why you're moving really, really fast through the maps. 3 points in Victory Howl, so there's a chance when your wolf gets a kill to howl. 2 points in Snare, so that you have a howl on my kill chance, which is going to be very active. This is what is going to allow you to get the haste a lot more often, even though you'll have about 50% uptime just from the wolf howling and the cooldown of its skill. If you proc it when you get a kill, which in high density maps you're going to do all the time, you're going to be able to proc it more often, have a 100% chance of that haste uptime, and then you'll have that 100% more melee damage. 1 point in Relentless so that your wolf can't be stunned, and 4 points in Canine Agility to give it some dodge to try and improve its survivability a little. Now, they did rework some of the mechanics for a pet. It gets more damage reduction and does more damage based on your character level, and I believe at level 100 it gets 60% more damage and takes 60% less damage, and that's multiplicative with other sources. Don't take those exact numbers, I might be a little off, but I'm pretty sure that's what I read in the patch notes. And then for Warcry, this is the brand new skill. The way we have it spec'd here is to try and get as much damage out of it as possible. We have 1 point in Juggernaut, so that after you use it, you're invulnerable for 1 second, which is awesome. 1 point in Beserker, so you get a Berserk buff on use. This gives you 4 melee physical damage per stack. You get 1 Berserk stack on hit while the buff is active. So basically what happens is you use Warcry, you get a Berserker buff. Berserker buff lasts for 1 second, although we increase the duration so it lasts for a little bit more, around 1.5 seconds. As long as you get 1 hit on an enemy, any enemy and any type of hit, within 1.5 seconds, you keep the stack of Berserk and it refreshes its stacks as long as you do that. So as long as you don't go more than 1.5 seconds without hitting something, you'll get up to the maximum amount of stacks and then you'll keep them. Here you can have up to maximum stacks. With 4 points in Brutality, that's the 48% increased duration. This will put it up to a 1.48 seconds. And then you can have 4 more maximum stacks. That means that you can have 14 stacks, which each give you 4 melee physical damage. If you're doing the math, that means you get 56 more melee physical damage when you are at max stack, which is a huge amount. That's about the amount that you can get as an implicit on a top end weapon. I think like the Decisive Sword comes with like 53 melee physical damage, so it's almost like wearing a third weapon. Then I have 3 points in Fury Strikes, which gives you additional attack speed per stack of Berserk that you have. At 12 stacks you'll have the maximum 60%, which is a huge amount of attack speed. Then we have 1 point in Staggering War so that we knock back enemies whenever we do use Warcry. 1 point in Kinetic Scream, which gives it 40 spell physical damage. Not too worried about that, but what we really wanted, what was below that, and that is that we get haste on hit whenever we have Warcry hitting an enemy, and then we can increase that haste duration, and then with 1 point in Raging Frenzy, you now get Frenzy on that hit as well as haste for the same duration, which is even more attack speed. So with this skill all by itself, you can get 80% attack speed, which is huge. We have 2 points in Deep War, so the area is increased for the enemies it affects. 2 points in Battle Cry for some more crit chance, and 1 point in Ferocity, so that after you use Warcry, if you crit anytime that it's on cooldown after that, there's a chance that you'll proc it again. Now once you proc it once, it resets the cooldown, which means that the cooldown starts again, and then you can't proc it again this way. So it's kind of useful, kind of not. It's kind of more useful just to be able to cast Warcry when you want. We'll probably respec that later. Something I would definitely like to get into is being able to pull instead of knockback, because it's really annoying when you use it up against a boss that you really want to keep attacking so that you can get your hits in and keep all your stacks. And then you knock it back, and then you have to run towards it, and you're hoping that you do that in less than a second and a half so you don't lose all your Berserker stacks. Alright, for passives, we have 20 points in the Primalist base class with 6 points in Gift of the Wilderness, 1 point in Natural Attunement, 1 point in Harmony of Blades to dual wield, 5 points in Hunter's Restoration, 1 point in Primal Strength, and 6 points in Survival of the Pack. 0 points in Druid, 10 points in the Shaman. This was just to unlock Earthquake. However, I didn't really use Earthquake that much. I'll probably unspec these 10 points and put them back into the Beastmaster, as there's much more useful things there. However, the setup here is 1 point in Silent Protector, 4 points in Shamanic Infusion, and 5 points in Teutomic Fury for that 25% attack speed, while you have a totem which will be Frenzy Totem active. Then we have 81 points in the Beastmaster, our mastered class. We have 3 points in Ursane Strength, 2 points in Savagery, 1 point in Ambush, 6 points in Lamprey Teeth, 4 points in Boarheart, 5 points in Porcine Constitution, 2 points in Primal Strength, 1 point in Rending Maul, 1 point in Hunters of the Deep, 5 points in the Circle of Life, 1 point in Dragon Slayer, 8 points in Ocean Maul, 1 point in Feeding Frenzy, 8 points in Cry of the Lynx, 1 point in Natural Bond, 10 points in Avian Shelter, 10 points in Hawk Wings, 6 points in Serrated Claws, 1 point in Primal Aspects, and 5 points in Critical Bite. Now, every time that you have your Wolf Howl, or every time Howl goes off, it's going to proc Aspect of the Lynx, which is going to give you more critical multiplier, more critical strike chance, and what that really does is that critical strike multiplier is huge, and you have increased Lynx effect on your idols, so that's going to increase this even further. And then it's going to also give you that critical strike chance, and with all your other critical strike chance that you have, you're going to have 100% crit chance at times, and you're going to leech 15% additional damage that you do of those critical strikes, which your leech will get absolutely ridiculous. Now, if you take the 10 points out of the Shaman and you want to put it here, I recommend either going into the duration to keep the buffs up more, or you can put all 10 points in Viper Fangs to get 50% more melee attack speed right off the bat, which is huge. You can also have a higher chance to proc Aspect of the Boar. You could give yourself some more physical damage. There's a lot of options that you could do with it. They could definitely be spent really well inside of this tree, so don't be afraid to mess around with it. And for items and idols, so the idols that you want are going to be the 1x4 vertical standing idols that increase Aspect of the Lynx and increase Aspect of the Shark. Now the Shark effect is more important than the Lynx effect, so try and get as many Shark effects first, and then if you have ones that have dual, which these ones are a bit more rare, you're going to be able to get the Lynx effect and the Shark effect. And what that does is the Shark effect is going to give you more melee damage and more melee attack speed, which is a really huge buff. And then the Lynx is going to give you more critical strike multiplier. So you can see how they both kind of interact, and as the more you get of one, the more the other one's going to, profit from it. However, the Shark is definitely more important than the Lynx off the bat, so make sure to get those first. We are wearing one unique. Our unique is going to be the Undisputed. You do not have to have this. You can definitely craft 2 rated axes or raider axes and get just as much damage with it. This one just comes with more added melee physical damage, which you can't get as much. You can't get 46 on a crafted weapon unless it's tier 7, which isn't crafted anymore. It's a drop. So for our crafted items, we have a Raider Axe, We have added melee physical damage, added melee crit chance. We have chance to apply frailty on melee hit and chance to shred armor. For the chest, we have aspect of the shark, aspect of the lynx, increased health, and flat health. These are just tier 2 on the aspects, so you don't have to go crazy on them. You can definitely go higher. If you have an exalted one, that would be huge. For the helmet, same thing. We have increased aspect of the lynx, increased aspect of the shark. We have flat endurance threshold and increased health. Now, again, the lynx and the shark, tier 1, tier 2 is fine. Try and get tier 5 of the endurance because that's going to be the most helpful for your survivability. Another thing of note, the leech that you get from this helm for the implicit is 1% higher min and max than it was before. Instead of 2 to 4, it is now 3 to 5, which is huge. For the amulet, we still have a Jade amulet for that melee attack speed. We have physical penetration, critical strike multiplier, void resist, and elemental resist. For the rings, we have 2 silver rings. On the right one, we have attunement, increased critical strike chance, endurance, and endurance. For the main one, we have attunement, critical strike chance, percent endurance, and flat endurance. Now, you don't need the percentage. We overcapped quite a bit. You could just get flat and do health or do dodge or do something else. Dodge is something that I would definitely like to tie into this build as well, seeing as dodge can now cap at 85% instead of 75%, which means it's definitely going to be used as a lot more probability chance of good defense. Even though there's still a chance you'll get one shot, it's a whole 10% lower. Now for the belt, we have increased physical damage, minion health, flat endurance, and percentage increased endurance. For the gloves come with a percent endurance on them as an implicit, which is nice. We have attunement, increased attack speed, necrotic resistance, and flat endurance. For our boots, Heoborian boots, we have movement speed. Attunement movement speed is now a prefix, void resistance, and elemental resistance. And then for the relic, we're using the blood catcher, which gives us 25% chance to bleed on hit. We don't really care about that, but it's the 15% increased aspect of the shark effect, which actually rolls up to 21%. That's huge. And then on the relic, this is the only spot that you can get plus level skills to swipe, and its hybrid effect gives increased melee damage. We then also have critical strike multiplier, flat endurance, and percentage endurance. The most important thing here, I would say, is just get the 2 levels to swipe. So gamble relics until you get it, break them down. It seems like you're getting 100% of breakdowns now on gambles. I'm not sure if that's new to this patch or if it's been that way for a little while, but I noticed that I just was getting all of my affix shards back. So you only need to find a couple of them that drop swipe for you to be able to get 5 of them. And then make sure that you get 5 first. After that, you can get other things that you like. Tier 1 affixes on this will work just fine. And just +1 to swipe. So okay, you're just going to take away 1 point in the area and that 5% hit damage, or you can take it out of the 25% crit chance since you can get 100% once you have everything else active anyways. Then for the character sheet, as you can see, we don't have our resistances capped, other than cold, so there's definitely room for improvement there. We have 0 dodge, definitely would like to improve upon that, especially since it scales more linear, which sounds like it's going to be a little bit easier to stack. We have about 18% damage reduction through armor. We only have 1400 health. We have some decent move speed. And then, like I said, even though these stats look plain, and like right now our swipe is only a 5,649 damage per second swipe skill, it's going to grow very, very fast. So, for instance, let me go ahead and put my skills on rotation. We're going to have the wolf. We're going to have the frenzy totem. So you can see just between these two, everything starts jumping up. You're just getting crazy. You already have more armor, you doubled your attack speed, and you have a huge amount of critical strike multiplier. We're talking over 400% here because of aspect of the lynx. And then what really starts to get crazy is as you start to do attacks, this is where stuff gets crazy because of that aspect of the shark. Now, again, we're just attacking a single target here, which isn't a rare or boss, which is where you really get your attacks. But you can see just sitting here, we're getting up to a good 500% physical damage. We're getting some good old melee damage, which is sitting between 400 and 500%. We have over 500% critical strike multiplier when everything's active. And the DPS on our tip right is almost 100,000. And we're not even using Warcry yet. So what you can do now is I like to use Warcry, and then you start getting your stacks. You can see them counting up there, the eyeball looking down at the bottom. We have 4 maximum stacks. So even though all of our stats are still the same on the left, we're actually doing more damage. We just went from doing about 20k damage on every crit, so now we're doing between 30 and 40 on our harder hitting ones when everything is all proc. And then as you can see, as I go down here, we're at 140,000 damage per second. And that's going to go up, and it's going to continue to go up as you get more stacks of Aspect of the Shark, because it will increase your melee damage and your attack speed will go up, which increases that damage per second. Alright, let's go ahead and get into some more gameplay.